it's time to bring up something that Ricky Flicks hinted at within the last minute. That's episode 4 of Andor. And we're going to give you our reactions. Make sure if you haven't seen episodes 1 through 3, our reactions, you can check it out on YouTube or on our previous feed. We're going to give you our quick reactions here. Episode 4. So we left off where Luthen, Stellan Skarsgård's character, is taking Andor away, saving him, right, after he is wanted for the murder of 2 Imperial cops. What do you think of this episode, Ricky Flex? It's still pretty slow. And I think it's very intentionally slow. But what do you think about what Tony Gilroy did here with episode 4?
This wasn't shaping up to be anything like the. Okay, let me just backtrack here. Yeah, it's slow. Okay, and I liked episode 3 better. I did, but this one had the intrigue part of it because it connected to the galaxy. Right, you have the capital of the galaxy. Now I'm spacing out. What's the name of the city again?
Which one?
Where
they were
Coruscant.
before?
Coruscant. So that got Star Wars fans in a frenzy, right? Oh, they're back to Coruscant, Revenge of the Sith, yada, yada, yada. And it leaned towards the political end as well. You had the Senator Mon Mothma, who Return of the Jedi, iconic scene there, but not really in much, right? Briefly in Rogue One, her scenes got cut in Revenge of the Sith. Definitely, like, she's the leader of the Rebel Alliance, so it's a major thing that she's in the show this early. So definitely leading towards the political and the Rebel Alliance there. So big implications with this episode. And you saw the other side of Stellan Skarsgård, which was interesting, and some Easter eggs with the artifacts in the shop there. So that was okay. The real thing, though, is they're setting up this impossible task to steal the payroll for the quarter for the Imperial Army, which will eventually arm the Rebel Alliance with whatever funds they need to fight the Empire. So that's going to be big. This was the implication episode. So slow, yes. Setting up the rest of the major part of the season, yes. The highlight, though, and I'll let you take it from here because I know you tweeted about it. I finished The Bear this weekend. I started and finished The Bear.
Ricky. Yes, and best show of 2022.
It might be. That show is incredible. And a scene stealer in that show was Richie. And if you've seen the show, then you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, go watch The Bear. 25-minute episodes, quick, unbelievable. It's on Hulu. It's a must-watch. It's a must-watch. It's an amazing show, and Richie's a great part in it, and he's in this series. Shocking turn of events. Absolutely shocked. That was the highlight of the episode. He barely said anything. Not a major character, but just from him being it and my love for the Bear timed out perfectly for me. I literally finished watching the season this weekend, and then Wednesday, boom, a couple days later, I see him in Andor. What?
Word spreads, dude. Eben Moss Backrack, it's not very natural coming off the tongue, but it was so satisfying to see him in this episode. It was super slow. But it does introduce Mon Mothma, who is obviously a big Star Wars figure, member of the Senate, also a key figure in the rebellion. She is on the side of the rebellion when we meet her here. She has a relationship with Luthen, right? Stellan Skarsgård's character. I think this really sets up for episode 5 to be an absolute banger. It's a build-up to the heist. It's like watching the first act of Ocean's 11, except it's too serious. That's what this felt like. I think Diego Luna being introduced to this new crowd, right? Obviously, you talk about Richie here, but you also got Vel, and you see the interaction she has on the inside. She's a core member of the rebellion. Her relationship with Luthen, who has the connections to the Empire, right? Works with Mon Mothma, speaks on the day-to-day with her if he can. It just felt un-Star Wars-like. I will say that. Other than the TIE fighters, like, it did not feel like a Star Wars show. And I think that's been either a praise or a criticism. If it's like a critic who is looking to expand on the Star Wars universe, seeing like the day-to-days, like they're like, okay, I'm into this. But then also, if you're going beyond that, like the fan, they're like, okay, you gave me Mon Mothma, but what else did you give me? You gave me a TIE fighter flying across the sky for 2 seconds, right? And you have Cassian Andor, right, who's already not that much associated with the Skywalker saga. So I like the buildup. I have acknowledged it's going to be slow. I think if you're an audience member, you just have to accept that fact. Just like if you are watching She-Hulk, you have to accept the fact that it's going to be a 30-minute self-contained thrill ride with a loose connection to the next episode. I do think also Stellan Skarsgård, it was interesting to see that transformation. I thought he did an amazing job this episode. It's got to be hard when you're trying to maintain the same core character, but you're playing 2 different people at the same time. I think he does that so well. I love the interaction with Mon Mothma. I also get the vibe that he might turn. He's someone that can't be trusted. He's someone who speaks to Cassian Andor and he says, okay, this is what the situation is. You're going to be a part of this heist and everything like that. But then he goes to talk to Vel and she gives him different information. It makes me think Stellan Skarsgård would either had to give the proposal to Cassian Andor to make sure he followed through and was buying in on this, and Vel could like finish the job and convince him to do the project, right, to do this heist. Or it's like, maybe he has different motives. Maybe he's a little bit off. He's not inside. He's not participating in guerrilla warfare. He's not on the ground. He's more of just the political type of end of this rebellion, which makes me think he could be turned a little bit easier, and he has that disconnect with everyone else. Do you trust like Luthen so far in the show, or are your sentiments similar to mine?
It's hard to put the bias aside of Stellan Skarsgård just as an actor and his usual roles as usually taking that turn. So just typecasting wise, yeah, I agree with you. Right? And he does give off that vibe a little
Just
bit.
typecast vibe.
Yeah, just typecast vibe. But he does give off that
100%.
vibe a little bit. I just think that it's because of the connection with Mon Mothma.
Yeah,
and
that's probably what I'm thinking.
You have to. Yeah, and you have to have a twist at some point. So you know it's not going to be Mon Mothma.
Double spy.
You know it's not going to be Cassian Andor. So who are you going to have? Now, Deidre, the blonde woman in the Empire who got promoted and, you know, is the goody two-shoe, the bunch
works at the Bureau.
Right? I could see her turning to the good side and being a double spy,
yes,
or being a spy for the rebellion. If her work's going to get
disrespected by the Empire,
disrespected, right? And that continues to be a pattern similar to the one that she's detected already by the rebels. It's like, oh, their patterns are going undetected. I'm getting disrespected. The Empire isn't what I want. Oh, how can I help the rebellion? So that's someone where I could see a turn actually happening. Yes, you are the host, but I know a transition. What do you think about Deidre?
I could see her turning, but I also can see another character turning, one that I think audiences are trying to forget about, but they're not going to let us. Tony Gilroy will not let us forget about Cyril. The failed, right, a cop that is the Empire has to step in, right? He seems like he's out of his depth in the episode 3 when he's trying to take down Andor, and when Luthen saves him. And he is the most like, if you looked at him and you watched the way he acted, like if you had to guess like one character went to go see his mother, it was this guy. Like 100% this guy. But I think like I wrote it down in my notes from episode 1 when Cyril was first introduced and he recognizes the corruption within the Imperial forces, right? How they kind of want to brush things aside if it's not a big deal. All right, let's just move on. Justice doesn't need to be served. It seems like he'd be one to like join the rebellion because he doesn't like the direction that it's going. So I think we're actually going to see like a transformation for Cyril's character into like one of the most hateable ones, detestable. And then all of a sudden he might want to join the rebellion because he doesn't have a lot of hope right now with the Empire. It's hard to come back from. But I do like what you're saying about Deidre. She has like somehow, she works for the Empire, but she has some traits that make you want to root for her because they put her against other like true members of the Empire, where they're like the higher members. They want to put you down. They are right. You're wrong. And they kind of set her up to be like an underdog within the Empire. And maybe I agree. She could be turned as well. And I think this is like the masterful writing of Gilroy, to be honest, because you are making these, you're almost assuming some of these players are going to turn and you're not exactly sure who. So, and I think that he's just a master of this craft, of this type of project. So, although we didn't get much action here, literally zero action in this entire episode, it has me pumped for the future and the fact that K2SO is coming.
Yeah, and we know Mon Mothma's not going to turn or anything. That was the only her and Andor are the only
Yeah,
ones
we
that
just
we
talked
know
about
their
three
outcome.
potential turns.
Right. So that's the glory where Gilroy can just work and be creative and be like, all right, how do I make this like my type of thing here, but still in Star Wars lore? But also, I think that it's not a criticism. It still has those Star Wars isms, not to the extent that we have the freaking band playing at bars. You know what I'm saying? Or
Cantina?
random ass. Yeah, thank you, Cantina band. Or the random ass. Just creatures, right? We're just sticking with humans for the most part here in droids. So it's still connected just loosely. So, and you have the politics aspect as well. But I just think that, yeah, I agree. And relate back to the character, he that visits his mom. Forget his name already, but that's kind of the reason why, like, I never bought him as being a big bad or a major bad in this series. He just didn't have that in him, and he's
Can you
not.
see him turning?
I think he will turn. Going to see your mother, which I totally agree with you. I totally saw that. Like, totally agree. Great point,
Pussy.
Zach. But but it's just like, yeah, like that's obvious. And at some point, he's gonna help out the rebels, I think. So I think we got a double turn. And because again, this is early stage. Like, if they don't do this, they don't get this payroll from the Imperial army, it's oh well, we can't fund the Rebel Alliance and we can't actually have Star Wars A New Hope, or we can't even have Rogue One, then we can't have A New Hope, and we can't have the rest of the Star Wars lore. So we're at the early stages of the rebels here. Mon Mothma, isn't comfortable. She's still a senator, right? She's still a part, like technically, like the Empire runs everything. She's technically part of the Empire, you know? So we're really early right now. So, and the rebels are down bad. So we got to figure out a way. And this is kind of laying the groundwork of how it all started. The Empire is taking these patterns like it's nothing. They're being lazy, right? Even with the character that I still don't know his name, but that one sent to see his mother, he was told not to bother with this issue with Cassian Andor. But you know
Cyril.
what? He did it anyways. And that's a rebel type thing where it's like, oh, we got to defend our own. We have to, he was one of us. And that's like what the rebels would do. So he already has that mindset to make the turn. So that's what I'm trying to say. Where Gilroy's building up the rebel alliance here, the rebels, and building up for a season 2 where we're going to see a full or end of this season, and then going into season 2 we're going to see a full rebel alliance in full force in the spine crime thriller.
The writing's so smart. So the only characters we know are Andor and Mon Mothma, right? And we already know where they lie. But everyone else you can't trust. We brought up the 3 characters before we can see turning. Then we also have this new crop of characters that don't trust Cassian Andor, right? He's now going by Clem for this upcoming heist. There's just a sense of distrust everywhere in this show. And the fact that we don't know these characters makes this show exciting. That's why I'm excited for the future. And that's why you're going to be tuning in week after week. So this is the perfect show. If you are a non-Star Wars fan, to get into Star Wars. Not because only Tony Gilroy is writing, but because all of these characters are pretty much new, except for Cassian Andor and Mon Mothma. We had one name drop with Saw Gerrera, but you can't tell me that, like, you can guess what's going to happen. It's not episode 3 where it leads into episode 4, and Darth Vader is going, like, Anakin's going to become Darth Vader. Eventually it's going to lead into Rogue One, but you don't know at what point. And we know it's going to be 2 seasons. Things are going to be happening between the events of right now and Rogue One that you cannot predict. No matter how much you watch of the animated series, no matter how much of you watch the live action shows, movies, it does not matter. You cannot guess what's going to happen. And it's going to keep you on your toes because you're going to be having conversations in your head like the ones we're having right now.
But it's
that's what makes this show so good.
That's how you draw these big time directors and writers in. Like, they have that creative process. Like, look at what Taika Waititi. Like, that's going to be a totally separate thing, but still connected to Star Wars. But why did he join? Like, he could still be Taika Waititi and not be hunkered down by Kathleen Kennedy and the Star Wars lore. They'll have their direction to how to connect it properly to Star Wars, but the story itself is going to be entirely their own. Tony Gilroy, it's, you got to end with Cassian Andor right before Rogue One. Okay, well, where do I start? And then I get to basically do everything else. And then you just help fill in the gaps. So that's how you get these directors in.
And
Marvel, you can see, is trying to do that as well. So it's clear, but Disney's just doing great as an entire company and their movie production studio, their film studio, just doing that. And I think that is just better for us as an audience member going forward.
And Tony Gilroy was not historically a Star Wars fan when he took on Rogue One to write it. And so that's key because you're not taking on the same tone as Star Wars movies. You're not making it as interconnected. You're going to have like Kathleen Kennedy looking over a project a la like a Kevin Feige with the MCU to make sure things match up. But you're able to put your own stamp on it. And this is one that he could put even more of a stamp on compared to Rogue One because you knew the ending to Rogue One. You do not know the ending of season 1 of Andor. And that's why it's perfect. And you're right. It's more adaptable for more capable directors, right? One that have technical capabilities. You don't have to know the ins and outs of the franchise or the universe that it's set in. You could just do what you want to do and craft it. And that's what a lot of people are doing nowadays. Rather than like taking on their own project, like I want my thing to be seen. Let's go to a franchise. Let's go to Star Wars, MCU, and I could do my own thing and create a project within this universe that still has my identity or my signature on it. Know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's perfect.
Yeah, you nailed that. All right. Any other final comments on Andor before we wrap up today's episode?
I think the question looms. Final question: are you looking forward to Andor episode 5, middle of the season, or She-Hulk episodes 8 and 9? I think I'm looking forward to Andor episode 5 over a possible Daredevil appearance because I'm afraid they're going to mess it up.
Dude, I'm loving Andor. Clearly, I'm a fan of the writing. I think the heist is going to be, this is like the first test for like an action sequence where will it live up to prior action sequences in Star Wars? If you don't have lightsabers involved, can you still provide the same level of action sequences that the franchise is known for? I get it. Daredevil's amazing. Charlie Cox is amazing. But there is some distrust between audience and obviously showrunner for She-Hulk. Will they be able to pull it off? What am I more confident in and what am I looking forward to? It's got to be Andor. They're killing it. I love slow pace. I like a slow burn. Killing it so far. Love it, love it, love it.